Today, Kip Moore released a song called Crazy One More Time to country radio, and I gotta say it's one of the most intriguing single releases I've seen in a long time.
Let's go crazy one more time.
The reason it's intriguing is because Crazy One More Time isn't actually a new song. In fact, it came out 10 years ago on Kip Moore's 2012 debut album, Up All Night, which is not to be confused with One Direction's 2012 album, also called Up All Night. Kip Moore's debut was by far his biggest album. It spawned hits like Something About a Truck,
Something about a truck in a farmer's field.
then Beer Money,
And I got a little bit of money.
then Hey Pretty Girl.
Hey, pretty girl, won't you look my way?
And although Crazy One More Time never was officially released as a single, over years of being played at live shows, it has become a fan favorite. And now 10 years into his career, Kip Moore is reaching way back into his catalog, grabbing that fan favorite and serving it to radio and seeing if it will hit as a single.
You know, we had that beautiful gift of radio. Songs like Hey Pretty Girl, and they really like opened the door for these fans to come in. But once they came in, this was the song that everyone really kind of gravitated towards, this song called Crazy One More Time. And it always kind of ended up being the song of the night early in our career.
The song itself is a driving, slow burn that's got this beat that goes all through it that's kind of reminiscent of something like Dierks Bentley's Home. And it's about kind of yearning for one more crazy romantic night with this girl. And Kip actually re-recorded it as a special edition for this single release. While it sounds mostly similar, it's a little bit shorter. It has a little less steel in it, and I think kind of some amped up, bassier, lower end on the sound. A kind of glistening cinematic intro and outro, some hollers and really intricate guitar work in the post-chorus. And the only kind of vocal difference I noticed was instead of in the original where he goes, hey, yeah. This time it's kind of syncopated. It goes, hey, yeah. I mean, it's tiny, but that's the difference I noticed. But it sounds great, and the song's a fan favorite for a reason. It's sexy and catchy and cool. Kip's voice sounds awesome and has that gravel on it. But the question is, will it work? Kip Moore has always had such a hot and cold relationship with radio ever since that debut album. 2 singles ago, She's Mine had a long, slow climb to moderate success. However, his last single, Good Life, which kind of felt Brothers Osborne-ish in a way, a little bit funkier,
I've been hypnotized by a gypsy lover.
that one didn't take off at all. So this is a big risk to see if this older song of his from his first record can hit in 2022, and I'm so intrigued to see if it will work. Now, there is evidence to suggest that an old album cut can hit in the music world years later. Most evidently, and in a freaking big way, is Taylor Swift's All Too Well.
When I was writing the Red album, I knew I had a favorite on the album, and it was a song called All Too Well. Oftentimes, my personal favorites don't line up with songs that end up being singles or having videos. But what happened on this album was this song became the fans' favorite on its own.
So when Taylor Swift put out Red, Taylor's version last year, she kind of marketed the whole project around this 10-minute, new and improved version of All Too Well, complete with its own short film, and the song went all the way to #1 on the Hot 100. But look, not everyone is Taylor Swift, not everyone has her marketing power, not everyone has her fame, and not everyone should expect similar results. And so the question kind of to me was, has anything like this happened in the country music world before? I knew of a couple songs that had been released as singles, hadn't been hits, and then re-released later. That was the case with Chris Young's Voices,
I hear voices all the time.
which originally came out in 2008, but it only peaked at number 37 on the Airplay chart. But Chris Young's next 2 singles, Getting You Home, the Black Dress song, and The Man I Wanna Be, both smashed and went #1 and really launched him as an artist. And geez, Chris Young from like 2008 to 2012 was just the greatest, wasn't he? But after the success of those 2 singles, the label resurfaced Voices, and this time, with some added star power, it went all the way to #1. The same thing happened with Randy Travis, actually, when he was launching his career. They released a song called On the Other Hand, which only peaked at number 67.
Is on the other hand.
But then, after he had a hit with his song 1982, he turned around and re-released On the Other Hand, and that song went to #1. That's the thing about country radio, is like once it builds someone into a star, it likes to be loyal to them, and future songs often become hits. It's just so freaking hard to break into, and look, I have a whole video on radio. Let's not get distracted.
To rodeo for radio.
But in both those cases, those songs were singles that had originally been pushed and then got re-released. In researching for this video, I was only able to find 2 examples of songs that had been album cuts, became fan favorites, and then got released as singles later. And weirdly, they both happened in June 2008. Brad Paisley's Waitin' on a Woman was originally just a deep cut on his 2005 album, Time Well Wasted.
You don't mind waiting on a woman.
And it wasn't even on the original track list of his 2007 album, Fifth Gear. But it was included as one of the bonus tracks on a deluxe reissue of Fifth Gear in 2008. It was released as a single in June 2008, and by September of that year, it hit number 1. And isn't that cool that songs used to only take like 3 or 4 months to go number 1 instead of like over a year to go number 1? The story was very similar for Keith Urban's You Look Good in My Shirt.
All I know is you sure looking.
Which was originally on his 2002 album Golden Road. And upon its first release, it got like a little bit of unsolicited radio play, but it was never a single. However, he also released it as one of the bonus tracks on a deluxe reissue of his 2007 Greatest Hits album. It was also released in June 2008 as a single, and it also went to number 1 in September 2008. So, you know, Brad Paisley and Keith Urban were really on simpatico journeys. And then fun fact, they released that song a year later called Start a Band Together.
Cut up some jeans, come up with a name.
So there's your trivia for the day. That also went number 1. I've definitely been noticing that we're kind of in this moment of old songs having their resurgence thanks to TikTok. And I've noticed a few artists in the pop realm capitalizing on this notoriety of some of their back catalog. AJR has this song called The Good Part from their album The Click, which I will always stand by my love of that album, but currently it's been blowing up on TikTok.
Can we skip to the good part?
And so them and their label have actually given the song to pop radio if pop radio wants to play it. Thus far, it's only been added officially by a couple stations in the country. If you look at their Spotify, it is currently their number 1 streaming song. And I think it's smart of them to lean into the momentum where it's presenting itself. The same thing happened with Meghan Trainor's song Title from her debut album. The kids on TikTok decided they loved the song Title, and apparently she shot a music video for it way back in the day, and the label had just kind of slept on it, but they have released this music video a month ago, and in 1 month it's already gotten over 26 million views. That is more views than a lot of her most recent music videos have been getting. And she had a single with Nicki Minaj that came out a full 2 years ago and only has 30 million views. So clearly this was a good move, and there was interest in this song. I mean, it's also number 1 on her Spotify. And again, I feel like, why not? I think it's cool if this thing back in the day that you made is resonating with people now, unless I suppose your values have changed, or as an artist you just kind of resent that era of your life. But so long as you stand by the work, why not lean in? If there's a country song that I think is most eligible for this kind of treatment from TikTok, it's probably Cody Johnson's Diamond in My Pocket.
Maybe there's a shooting star, that one's for me and here.
That song is old. It is from before he was trying to be a mainstream star, when he was just happy to be playing rodeos out in Texas, but it has blown up. It is huge. You look at its streaming numbers and people love it. It's this like engagement anthem on social media now. And so I think, and I mean engagement like with a ring. I feel like After Till You Can't is a hit. If Cody Johnson needs to reach into his back catalog, I feel like audiences have demonstrated a clear interest in this song, and he could probably put it out too. I also feel like Chris Stapleton, if he ever wanted to, could put out Tennessee Whiskey as a single officially, although at this point I don't really know why he'd need to. He's like so iconic for the song that never really had a moment of being a thing that played on the radio with an official music video. So I don't really think it would be his style to do it, but I bet he could. I asked people on Instagram to weigh in on what they thought of Kip Moore releasing this 10-year-old song, Crazy One More Time, as a current single. And for the most part, people were so excited. Marty said, so pumped. He said a million times that he wanted this to go out to radio, and at some point he would re-record it and do that. Kept true to his promise. Also hope that maybe this project, I guess an upcoming project, is a bunch of songs that didn't make previous records. That would be cool if he's sitting on a bunch of old tracks. Matt weighed in and said, best song on the album in my opinion, potentially better than anything he's released in the last few years. It's a good move for him. And I think I agree with that. Crazy One More Time is like pretty in a way that some of his rockier stuff isn't. And I could see that appealing to a broader set of people. Al says, I love this idea, especially in the age of TikTok. I think artists and labels could benefit from making old songs new singles. We are in agreement there. And Miranda, who I know is a big Kip fan, said, "Genius. I've always wanted my favorites to be able to release an old deep cut that were missed radio opportunities. I'm excited to hear this on the radio." Some people were a little less sure about the idea. Dominic says, "I think most people won't find it catchy enough, like his Something About a Truck, or sweet enough like She's Mine, which both did great on the radio. The song doesn't seem to fit in with those other successes. Maybe Everything But You would do better, but we both know Kip goes to the beat of his own drum and it has worked great so far." It's very true. Emma says she loves the song and it might do well on radio, but she does note that as a massive fan, I find it frustrating to have an old single being released rather than new music. And I totally understand why someone would feel that way. I think probably you gotta walk a tough tightrope as a mainstream artist. You want your songs to be big and you want to rely on the reliable hits, but at the same time, you know, you want to put out new stuff, but if the new stuff isn't hitting, do you go back to an old thing? You know, I don't know. I don't know how you do it. Also, I'm just editing this video right now, and there's this nice message from Connor Smith, who just put out his EP, and you might know him from Learn From It or I Hate Alabama, but he says, "This album is one of my top 3 albums of all time. So many hits." And I just thought that was so nice. And I asked if I could share it. He said yes. I'm definitely interested to see how it does. I love the song. I also really love the next song on the album too, called Where You Are Tonight. Man, that has always been my favorite Kip Moore song. It just takes me back to when it was 2012. I was living in New York City. I didn't have any friends, and I just jammed to that song all the time. But that's not the single. Crazy One More Time is, and I'm hoping the stunt works for him. I'd love to know what you guys think of the re-recording, if you think it's gonna work, and hey, if you know any other fun facts of random old tracks that got later released as singles and became hits, I'd love to hear them. It was hard to find some examples for researching this video. I'll be back with a bunch more country content soon, and wow, 22, we're off. We're off. So, see y'all. Bye.